Welcome to Meet the Moment podcast, produced by the Real Estate Business Institute. This podcast is an exploration of what today's industry leaders and agents need to know to be profitable, productive, and have fun. I'm Matthew Rathman, and I'm joined by co-host Kimberly Allard as we chat with thought leaders, brokers, and agents who can help agents meet the moment of change in the real estate industry. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Meet the Moment podcast. We have a great guest today, but before we get to that, we're going to talk about Kimberly's well-being. Kimberly, you took a spill today.
I was not going to tell anyone. Oh, well, it's only us and our tens of listeners, as our guest has said. It was serious. It was very serious. Now, you might think I'm an athlete by looking at me, but my athleticism does not come easily, and as a result, I took a little spill on the pickleball court today, and I would say little, but it wasn't little. It was a good one. Like, people were coming from other courts, and to not to help me up, because in that horrible moment of embarrassment, even if you broke all your limbs, you pop back up. You're like, I'm good, But I have to tell you, I did practice my safety techniques, which is stop, drop, and roll. And once I finished rolling, I think I do know I smashed the back of my head, and it was like pounder headache. Smash the back of your head, stand up, now you're nauseous. Yeah, pound your head. So there was a chance that I had some cognitive changes or challenges, but who could tell, right?
Yeah, but this is, look, I'm envisioning this, and you fell forward but hit the back of your head. Was this pickleballing under the influence or just normal
Well, does that really apply here? I mean,
I see. We're avoiding the question. You're pleading the fifth.
It was 9 a.m. I do not start my drinking clearly until 10:30. And we will play. No, are you kidding? Have you ever seen me play? I can barely play as it is. I was playing with, of course, 3 other people that were very fit and youthful. And here's the old lady that falls on the pickleball court. And this has actually kind of been a fear of mine. And I know we joke about this, but you get old and you fall down and things break. Yeah. And there's a lot of me to fall down, and it hit the ground pretty hard, as is evident by my pretty bad headache. And I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital to be evaluated, but I was telling them that we had a special guest on the podcast, and I can't possibly prioritize my cognitive health and my, all those things. So here I am. We're going to do this.
Well, we're all glad you're here. We're glad you're okay. For those
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good. I do appreciate the fact that it's been over 20 years, but I was an EMS medic, and you were asking me to check your pupils through the camera, through our recording system here. So, but you look fine. You look great. You seem to have your cognitive ability. Yeah.
I did ask you to evaluate me.
Yeah. So we're doing great. Well, okay. Our guest is Shannon McGahn, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Advocacy Officer for the National Association of Realtors. And Shannon, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
That's me applauding in the background. You can't see me, but you
Slow
can
clap.
hear me.
Slow clap. Thank you. I'm honored to be with you. 2 of my favorites. Kimberly, normally these conversations are over a nice cold drink towards the end of a conference, but
with children sometimes
it's they get their Shirley Temples in, but they love you.
You guys get drinking with children? That's okay now?
No, well, I should have said, and Shannon's children don't drink yet, but
no, my kids love Kimberly.
Yeah, well, because I am like a 12-year-old boy, but we are so excited to have you here, although I don't want to rub it in. Dr. Jessica was here before you. Colin was here before you, but it's maybe just because we saved the best for last, right?
No, you know what? I would much rather go on. Jessica and I go and do little, road shows together. She is just a absolute wealth of information and so fun. So now I'm going to have to step up my game too.
Well, because I'm going to ask you right now to tell us a little bit about what got you through the doors at NAR and how did that even happen? I mean, tell us where you started and then how you got here.
Well, they say that the harder you work, the luckier you get. And so there was a great deal of luck involved in timing. And I've spent close to 20 years working on Capitol Hill mostly in communications roles, and then as staff director at the House Financial Services Committee for members of leadership. And so working all around the legislative process, went over to the Treasury Department for a year as a counselor to the secretary, working primarily on the sell and rollout for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And then I went back to the Hill, had a boss who was retiring, and said, okay, well, I'll have to find a new job eventually, but a couple young kids at home, like I'll worry about that later. Literally got a phone call as I was walking to the floor saying, hey, someone over at NAR would like to meet with you, and they're hiring for a new top lobbyist and just would be interested in picking your brain. And I've received plenty of phone calls like that. I'm like, if I could start over with my career other than wanting to be a realtor, because I think I really missed the opportunity on that one in high school, and I would love working with you all in that official capacity. I would like to be one of those like professional headhunter matchmakers where I just arrange people into marriages or into jobs. Just connecting people is one of my absolute favorite things to do. So I thought it was going to be that kind of call. Like, hey, do you have a candidate for us? Because we don't really want to hire from the Hill. And I would, go and serve that role. But after a few conversations, they said, would you be interested in applying? I'm like, sure, great, would love to. There are very, very, very few jobs I would be willing to leave Capitol Hill or any public policy for, and to go out and advocate for homeownership and to work with folks who do this day in and day out with this kind of passion is one of the few that I would be very interested in doing. So I went through the process and was very honored to get the job. And as I was communicating with there's a whole group, anything that's happening in realtor world is big. So there's always a process. There's always a committee. There's always another work group. There's always, which I think is a feature, not a bug. It is wonderful because that means you have so many voices and so many pathways for people to have these volunteer opportunities. And it's not an organization that's just top down and being run by staff, or it is very much member engagement that includes it. So I was talking to all these members, and they're doing this interview process. I think they had like a dozen people they were interviewing for the job. And they said, why would you want this job? And I shared that growing up, I had gone to about half dozen schools before high school. Not because my parents were in the military, not because they had jobs that moved them around the country, but because we were renters. And there are several different reasons why that lease may come up and you have to move, and then you're switching school districts. And so the good news is I can make friends with anybody at any time. I am not shy. I will talk to strangers at all times. But the bad news is I didn't really have the opportunity to solidify my academic career. I was always a bright kid, but just didn't take anything seriously because I'll go to a different school next year. It's fine. And didn't really have the opportunity to develop those long-lasting friendships. And it wasn't until my parents saved up and my mom went out and got a mortgage for a townhouse in a multifamily community, which is what we could afford in our school district. And I knew I was going to be there all through high school, that my grades drastically improved. My test scores went up. I was, playing sports and involved in, I'm a joiner. So, any club I can belong to, like, yep, you got it. I'm there. And all of that led to me being the first in my family to go to a 4-year college. And it was the equity that my parents had in that home that helped to pay for that college. And as soon as I understood that homeownership is not just the opportunity of owning a home, but it's all the opportunities that get you there and that lead to any of those next investments and the next generation. And that's the American dream, that we want the next generation to have more opportunity than we do. And the keys to unlocking that happen with homeownership. So that's how I got here. And it's been 8 years almost. In October, it'll be 8 years, which sounds like I should have like 2 doctorates by now. And I still have like a BA in Realtor University. It's a lot to learn, a lot of wonderful people to work with. And I'm grateful for this opportunity.
I love the fact that your story is the story. You couldn't have a better person in the role. I mean, you've lived it. And I have said 1,000 times, we are the only professional trade association that lobbies on behalf of homeowners and those that wish to be homeowners. And There is no National Association of Homeownership other than, some other organizations that obviously we're affiliated with, but together we are representing what you just said. We're helping, we're ensuring that people get opportunities and all the trickle down opportunities that come from home ownership. It would really be unfortunate if you didn't have that story, because you can now really, there's so few people that can actually walk the walk.
It's like the hair club for men. Like, I'm not just a president, I'm a member. Like, it's like,
yes, just like that.
I'm not just
exactly.
an advocate. I benefited from this.
Right.
I saw firsthand. So.
I would be remiss if we didn't jump right into to our recent accomplishments, your recent accomplishments. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about how you got the 21st Century Road to Housing Act across the finish line, and also give us some insight, because, Shannon, we see you. You are the face. You've got your own podcast. We see you everywhere, and we love to listen to you. But you have how many FPCs in this country?
Oh, goodness. Well, how many FPCs on this call right now with me, Kimberly?
There's one. And for those listeners that don't know, that's federal political coordinators. Those are individuals who are really the liaison between their elected official and all the wonderful work that Shannon and her team do. And we cover kind of that way, we get all the bases covered. But Shannon's leading this message. Tell us how that all happened. It's so exciting,
gosh.
and we're all thankful.
So the federal political coordinators, I would say secret weapon, but we keep it no secret at all. It's well celebrated, but for every federal elected official, so you've got the 100 senators, 435 House members, and the handful of folks who are represented in the territories have that direct key contact. And so I joke with the member of Congress, this is a person whose job it is to annoy you and get a meeting and make sure that, you're signing on to this bill, or you're joining the real estate caucus. But it's really someone who has a friendship and oftentimes going back decades, where they may have known the elected official from high school or college, or from previous work, or maybe they were in the state legislature, and to make sure that those key contacts are happening to keep that line of communication open. So when we're looking at these major pieces of legislation, it's not just, hey, we've got these great ideas and you should just vote on it and therefore it goes signed into law. We'll get to that one in a minute. But
it's also not, writing checks. We're not buying anything here. No. We're creating, literally hundreds of relationships on Capitol Hill so that your message has a clear landing path, right?
The product that is that we're looking on is our research, our policy expertise, our policy development. NAR has more committees than Congress does, and every committee in Congress has something that touches real estate. So it is a great deal of work to make sure that we are producing the policy expertise and information that's out there. And on the campaign side, those are all separate, and that our FPCs often are the ones who will be out there to support their candidate. But as far as the legislative process goes, the FPCs open those doors and make sure that we have the meetings and the research and the information that is getting out there. So our lobby team, advocacy team. So we tend to not use the term lobbyist anymore. Matthew, do you know where that term came from?
I don't.
Lobbyists. So there used to be a time back in the day when there were folks who were hired to go into fancy restaurants or hotels in Washington, D.C. and wait for the members of Congress to get a little tipsy after their steak dinner and a few glasses of whiskey. And then when they would come out into the lobby, start advocating for something, asking them questions, saying, hey, what about this? So that's what they're called, lobbyists. Not saying that's not how it happens at all anymore, but that for an organization as sophisticated and large as ours, we are advocates. And so we have those conversations through our federal political coordinators, through our advocacy team, which we have over 60 people in Washington, D.C., who are the policy experts, the subject matter experts, to those direct folks who walk the halls of Congress and develop those relationships. And then we also have a team of political representatives and community outreach, working with our state and local associations. So it is, like I said, a massive operation, but one that is also a well-oiled machine that has been developed to work effectively over decades. And so our job is to make sure that all of these different programs and opportunities are being modernized. Our team is for years to say, look at what does advocacy look like in 10 years and how do we beat everybody else to it? So how do we have the most modern tools, tactics, practices, research, those relationships, so that we are going to be the voice when it comes to real estate and property ownership. And the work that we've been doing over these past several years is what directly led to the 21st Century Road to Housing. So we have a campaign, the Advocacy Scoop podcast, coming up in August. That episode will look at the 21-month campaign that we developed to help get this piece of legislation over the finish line, working in a bipartisan fashion and within both the House and Senate. But it really goes back to 5 years ago when Dr. Lawrence Yoon and Dr. Jessica Lautz and our amazing research team put out this landmark report showing that we are 5 to 6 million units short of a healthy real estate economy. And it is that lack of supply that's been building up over the years, that undersupply, that is making housing less available, less affordable, and less accessible. So without addressing that direct supply issue, all of the other ideas that are out there are still going to hit these roadblocks. So the leadership in both of those committees are folks that we have strong relationships and worked with for years and all have a passion for housing. So we looked at this Congress and said, if they can't happen in this Congress, then we don't know what the formula is going to look like for the next one. So working with French Hill and Maxine Waters in the House, and with Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren in the Senate on what are these pieces of legislation that can get that bipartisan support, that are introduced and passed in small chunks. So we're not looking at some massive comprehensive thing that no one can understand or read, but these are common sense ways to modernize federal housing programs, to reduce barriers to entry, things like making ADUs more accessible, encouraging states and localities to make zoning changes and reforms to increase housing supply. So all of these were common sense. They pull off the charts. So I got 90% approval for these things. So making sure that we were helpful and partners in creating a process to get it over the finish line. It's usually not the politics or the policies that are the hurdle. It is the process that becomes very difficult. And so this one, took a little longer than we'd like, but we had both the House and Senate vote multiple times on this. And the president, while he didn't sign it, also didn't block it. And so this was the first legislation of its kind in a long time to pass sine manu, meaning without the hand. But it also passed with these, veto-proof majorities that when you're looking at 390 votes in the House and 89 in the Senate, that's a very strong signal for bipartisan action and bipartisan support. And we're proud of the work.
And that's due in great part, obviously, to your work, but also to the communications that we've had with our elected officials. Otherwise, without having boots on the ground, having our members, and by the way, the FPCs are realtor members in their own communities. This isn't a paid position. It's not a staff position. It's a volunteer who gets appointed as a federal political coordinator for all the reasons you mentioned. So they're the little armies out on the street talking about why this is important. And this reinforces the policy work that you guys have done. And can you give us, and I don't know how many of our listeners attend the Realtor Legislative Meetings, RLM. We used to refer to them as mid-year. We call it all sorts of things now, especially now that it went from May to June. It might be going back to May. Anyways, we're in DC, thousands of us, and not just the FPCs, but realtor members that are engaged in what's happening in our country and in their own communities. Can you just give a little bit of taste, especially this year, because it was really exciting because things were happening as we were in DC for that week. So what did that look like for you?
Exciting is one word for it. So as we had 8,000 realtors descend on in Washington, D.C. For these meetings and for the expo. And it was, I think that Wednesday was the day that the FPCs were hitting the hill for all of these meetings. And earlier in that week, we get notice coming from, congressional leadership, White House and others, and it was all, publicly released that the Senate is going to move the bill that the House had amended, which that was kind of like the big question. It's a game of ping pong, and it's like, is it going to be returned, and are they going to give it floor time? That the Senate was going to take it up, and that they were going to prepare it for the president to sign. And so we got to announce that at RLM, that the day before we're all going in for these meetings, this can be a thank you meeting and not a why are you guys not taking this up meeting, which is always a better one to have. But we had one member of Congress, I will not name, who said, yeah, when the realtors are in town, we get our shit together. And it was just
fabulous.
The perfect timing. And so everyone's stoked and we're getting this all moving. And we said, okay, well, the way that the time frame works, it looks like it would be the next week that a bill signing would take place. President Kevin Brown testified that week, I think on Tuesday, in front of the Senate Banking Committee on housing affordability, and just knocked it out of the park. President Kevin Sears testified on the same legislation back late last year too. So thank them when you see them, because they put hours and hours and hours and no bathroom breaks, with congressional testimony there. And so it got to the bill signing time, and the president said, look, I've said this before, and I'm saying it again now, that I'm not going to sign this until my other priority, the Save America Act, gets through. And we were disappointed because we were all ready for that bill signing. We had a lot of seats ready to go. We were like walking out the door when it happened. But having worked in the legislative environment long enough, I know that doesn't kill a bill. It just simply puts it on pause, and the papers hadn't even gone over there yet. So I was like the Dumb and Dumber, like, so you're saying there's a chance. We still had an opportunity. And so we just kind of kept the communication going, kept up all of our policy ownership and ensuring folks understood what's in the bill. I think that has been a challenge because it is such a large piece of legislation. The section by section that the Senate Banking Committee put out is 7 pages long with like one sentence for every section. So we read the whole bill so you don't have to, and we will unpack all of this in the next episode of the Advocacy Scoop. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. And we have all of those resources available on advocacyimpact.realtor. So there's great stuff in there. It's a lot, but we have more to do, especially on the tax side, which is the next legislative battle, and the implementation of this bill over the next several months to 2 years.
We can save that for another podcast.
Yeah, yes, obviously, hopefully you'll come back and join us. I want to just say, I know we have limited time with you, and we thank you so much for sharing with us. Although I did not know the etymology of lobbyists, I was a big civics guy. I loved government in school. I was growing up. I feel like over the past 10 years, I'm grabbing that 8th grade civics book more often off the shelf to try to figure out what the heck's going on and what the rules actually say. But I'm intrigued by these things and how they're unpacked and how they're developed. As a feral kid growing up, in a small community and not very financially stable, so to speak, growing up, and to now see, after so many years of being in this industry, I can see you in the hall. I can talk to Kimberly and FPC, get information. I can see President Kevin Brown in the hall. And it was great to talk to my girls the other day who were kind of asking these government questions about the 21st century bill, and go, yeah, that guy that we saw, because they were teasing me about watching C-SPAN, or this picture of this guy, I get to see him in a hall. We get to have conversations once a year to try to help our homeowners. I love the advocacy part and the accessibility that your team, our entire NAR and association, state and local leadership teams give us to get these things done. As we roll out, this is your moment to speak to a different audience than maybe your own podcast. What is the misconception that you would like to dispel for us as we help encourage our fellow members to reach out to get help about the process?
Oh, well, I'm grateful to join you all today because, yes, expanding upon the tens of listeners that we have for the Advocacy Scoop is the Advocacy Scoop is about quality, not quantity. We want to make sure that everybody who wants to geek out on any type of federal advocacy efforts, just like you guys, that every month you know what we're working on and where to get the resources. And it's also for Patrick to be funny. So it is a great outlet for all of that. And we're always excited for folks to listen in. But one of the areas that I think is people assume when they see, oh, you have this large trade association and they're spending tens of millions of dollars a year and this is all happening in advocacy, they think that that is going to our work on Capitol Hill. And that is not the case. I wish that were the case. It is not the case that we have that much in resources happening in DC, that the bulk of it is actually funds that are separated towards advocacy efforts that are coming from member dues dollars. It's 19 cents a day is how much we're seeing from that then go through a process where anytime you have a ballot initiative or state legislation or state or local candidates who need support or opposition, that we have those funds available to go where they are needed, when they are needed, and to be incredibly effective dollars. So we just had a big win in Massachusetts where there's a statewide rent control effort, and rent control is an area that we've worked on for decades. I mean, it is well known that misguided rent control policies hurt housing availability and affordability more than they help, and that there are other efforts to make it more affordable, including building more. And so we often have to engage on that at the state level. And this is one where through NAR supporting Massachusetts efforts with an amicus brief and others, that we were able to prevent that from becoming a more expensive ballot initiative. Those things happen all over the country, and they don't get the same amount of press attention and notoriety as the things that happen in Congress. And so our job is to communicate that through every available channel. Advocacy Impact.Realtor, where we have history of all of our advocacy wins that are out there. So what we're doing at the state local level that happens because of that partnership between the local, state, and national association. And then the other thing I think people don't know a lot about what we do that is just as important is how many terrible policies don't happen because we have successfully advocated against it. Perfect example, 1031 like-kind exchange. That has been on the chopping block over and over again. It's consistently mentioned as something that could be eliminated or reduced in order to pay for other programs. And we have advocated to the tax writing committees and anyone who will listen that it actually benefits the economy more. It is a fairness issue that if you're taking capital gains out of a purchase going into another purchase, that you're diminishing that purchasing power, and that it pays for itself since it's generating more economic revenue. And we were so successful in advocating for that when it came before the House Ways and Means Committee and a markup to determine whether or not that would be added as an amendment, it didn't even come up. And so how do you get credit for something that doesn't ever, it's part of me is like, can someone introduce this so then they can vote it down? So then we can showcase
I didn't get sick this week. Does anybody care?
I didn't get credit for keeping my kids alive, by the way.
Right.
Exactly. So I asked Evan Lydiard, who's our tax policy genius. He's forgotten more about tax policy than I'll ever know. And said, well, Evan, 1031 is a great example, but you have your list of what he calls the ugly 11. And it's 11 different tax increases that have been proposed over the last several Congresses. And I said, can you just add up that if each one of those tax policies that we opposed went through, how much in tax increases in the real estate economy would that have been that we prevented? And that number was $2.2 trillion. Wow. With a T.
That speaks.
Trillion. So those are areas where if we weren't there to be the voice of reason that increasing real estate taxes is not going to make real estate more affordable, then we would have been seeing potential tax increases in the trillions.
Yeah, nobody thanks you for that now, do they? Right?
It's not.
Thank you for keeping
We-
us trillions of dollars out of.
It's how I feel about my to-do list. Sometimes I do it if it's not on the list, but then I write it down so I can get credit for crossing it off. Shannon McGahn.
We don't need a thank you. We just need the folks to support advocacy efforts and know that we're here to support you. That's all.
On behalf of the almost 1.5 million members, or maybe we're at that now, who knows? Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being, so active and willing to talk with all of us, share all the information. We really do appreciate it. Guys, don't forget to check out Shannon's podcast. And if we are lucky, we will have the opportunity to have you back.
I would love it. Great talking to you both.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining us on the Meet the Moment podcast. We know your time is very, very precious and we appreciate it. And if you want more information and reach out to Shannon, you can go and subscribe to the NAR Advocacy Scoop podcast and go to advocacy.impact.realtor for more information. All right, Kimberly, what do you have for our listeners as a go-to app, resource, or tool that can make their lives better?
Why do I have to always go first? You always have the better share, and you make me go first. All right. Well, I think I am going to blow yours out of the water today. We had the pleasure this week of being in the inaugural class of Axis, AXIS, because from New England it's Access, right? What do they call it? The accent. Anyways, Advancing Real Estate Instructor Excellent course that was developed by our very own REBI. And we were on fire, right? I mean, wasn't it an amazing couple of days? This is a 2-day course for instructors to help them develop skills, learn new skills, perfect skills that they've already had. We had a room full, and we had some very seasoned and national instructors in the room that were taking the class, and then we had some great folks teaching the class.
Yeah, our REBI, yours is definitely better than mine, but our REBI senior instructors, the cadre instructors, Robert Morris and Adorna Carroll and Madison, yourself, and I got to contribute a little bit for our modules. We had a good time. We had a great time. The students were great. We were getting a ton of positive reviews last night. It's incredibly hard to teach other instructors and also get good reviews. So we're pretty excited about the program. If you want more information, if you want to check it out, we're going to be doing them again in the future. Go to rebinstitute.com, and you can go check on calendar events. It's not posted yet, but we'll have some classes coming up. And it just reminded me that this is our third day together, like here on Zoom. So, and you haven't I can't handle him anymore. So you may have the award for the person who's hung out with me the longest and not want to kill me. It helps that we're in different states.
I'm looking for sharp objects now to stab myself in the eye with.
All right. Well, my
what is yours?
Yeah, mine's really simple. Hegsfield.ai, and I'm sharing that. There's tons and tons of AI video and photo generation systems out there. There's tons and tons of them. Hegsfield AI is one of the more expensive ones I've shared before, but I love it because it ties into my beloved Claude to create graphics and videos as part of a presentation or video clips or things that I'm creating for content as a broker, as an agent, and especially as an instructor. But it's super easy to use. It looks intimidating when you get there, but when you figure it out, it's just talk to the screen, and it creates some great content for those who are trying to find some B-roll or great materials for your content, especially if you're using Claude Design.
Can you explain to people what a B-roll is? It's not sushi, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, no, that's, now I want sushi. I'm going to write that down. We're going to go get sushi tonight. No, B-roll is just the extra video clip. So if you're watching a video and it goes from the talking head, like me talking, to show, the sun coming up in the mountain over the hill, or a panning of the house that we're talking about, those are just extra clips you can use in your video that you're creating for marketing and promotion. It kind of breaks the attention of the person who's viewing it.
Well, then you go.
Yeah,
it was good. It wasn't a bad tip. Mine's still better.
Yours is way better.
What a fun show today.
Yeah, no, Shannon's amazing. What the work that they do is amazing. And I do wish that, our listeners just spend a little bit more time focusing on this. When we go around, you and I go around to our different, whether we're teaching classes or in our leadership roles in the association, when you start looking at the value of the association, advocacy is the number one thing that is most tangible. That's the thing that most agents can look at and go, yeah, that's definitely something that's helping me, and more importantly, helping my clients out as homeowners, and buyers and sellers and renters, landlords, management, all around. So anyways, that is us, and that was a great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
And we're out. The Meet the Moment podcast is a production of the Real Estate Business Institute, an affiliate of the National Association of Realtors. Special thanks to CEO Jenny Scheib and to Dan Shea, our editor and content producer. The views and ideas expressed in this podcast are not necessarily shared or endorsed by REBI. All recommendations made in this episode were merely provided as best practices. The practices of any realtor are subject to the Realtor Code of Ethics, the laws and licensing jurisdiction, broker policies, and competent legal advice. Visit www.rebinstitute.com for more information, resources, education, and upcoming events.